think about the pure, unadulterated satisfaction of closing an IT help desk ticket.
Oh, yeah. Best feeling.
Right. Like you get an alert that a system is down, you log in, run a diagnostic to find the bug, apply a patch, reboot, and suddenly, boom, everything turns green again. Ticket closed.
Order is restored.
Exactly. And as human beings, we're deeply neurologically wired to love that process. We crave that dopamine hit of, fixing a problem.
We really do.
But when you step out of the server room and into the emotional world specifically, into the world of someone who is carrying the relentless burden of caring for a chronically ill loved one, that IT help desk mindset doesn't just fail, it completely backfires.
It makes things worse, honestly.
Yeah. So welcome to today's deep dive. We are looking at a fascinating document on Christian care mentoring, specifically regarding how to support caregivers. And the mission for our deep dive today is to fundamentally rethink the role of prayer in helping those who are hurting.
Which is a huge paradigm shift.
Yeah, it is. We're looking at how to shift prayer from a high pressure, transactional fix-it tool into a shared experience of God's presence using some very practical frameworks like the ACTS model.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because whether you listening right now are actively mentoring someone or you're just trying to be a better friend to someone in a crisis, these insights are incredibly practical.
They are, and this topic is just so crucial because our modern instinct, almost everybody's instinct is always to solve pain.
Right. We want the green light.
Exactly. But the sources highlight that when we try to quickly fix complex emotional or spiritual grief, we often unintentionally alienate the exact people we are trying to comfort.
And to really understand how to approach this correctly, the text says we first have to examine a highly relatable misstep, like a trap that well-intentioned mentors fall into all the time.
A case study with James and Daniel.
Yes, James and Daniel. So James meets Daniel, who is exhausted from caring for his chronically ill wife. And James wants to be a good mentor, right? So he says, let me pray for you.
And he just goes all in. Oh, he goes so hard. The text notes he prays over Daniel with this long, scripture-heavy, intricate prayer, asking for immediate healing, supernatural strength, the whole 9 yards, meant to completely fix the situation.
On paper, doing everything right.
Right. But Daniel just withdraws emotionally. He gives a polite thank you, but a massive wall goes up. Over the next few meetings, Daniel becomes super guarded, just giving weather report-style updates about his wife.
Because James was doing something to Daniel, not with him.
It feels like James initially treated prayer like a doctor's prescription pad.
Oh, that's a good way to put it.
Like he listened to the symptoms and then wrote out this long, complex medical order to cure Daniel's emotional state, which completely bypassed Daniel's actual heart.
What's fascinating here is the psychology of that shift. James eventually realizes his error. The document points out he reflects on Matthew 6.7, which warns against babbling like pagans who think they'll be heard because of their many words.
The bab.
Right. He realizes he was performing. So at their next meeting, James pivots. He simply asks, would it be meaningful for you if I prayed with you, or would you prefer we just keep talking?
Giving him the choice.
Exactly. And Daniel hesitates, then asks for something short. So James keeps it incredibly short and simple. And that is what finally allowed Daniel to open up.
It just completely tore the wall down.
It proved Proverbs 25.11, that a word fitly spoken is like apples of gold in settings of silver. James finally found the apples of gold by just sharing the space.
Now, realizing that prayer isn't a prescription pad naturally shifts a ton of pressure off the mentor, which leads us to examine what our actual responsibility is before we ever speak a word out loud in the room.
The unseen work.
Right. The document discusses that praying for a caregiver privately is the absolute foundation of the role because mentors are constantly second-guessing themselves, right?
Oh, constantly.
Oh.
Am I helping enough? Why isn't anything changing?
Exactly. And the text says that private prayer gently releases the illusion of control and that heavy weight of responsibility. It's a conscious choice to trust that God sees what the mentor cannot.
It references 1 Peter 5.7 for that.
Cast all your anxiety on him.
Yes. And Ephesians 3.2 about how God does immeasurably more than we ask or imagine. It's about letting go.
But, okay, let me raise a pushback here, because if we are intentionally letting go of the need to fix their situation, isn't there a huge risk that we'll just feel useless? Like we aren't actually doing anything for the caregiver?
It's so common to feel that way.
Yep.
But releasing control is actually an active, powerful step.
How so?
By taking on the role of an intercessor in private, you aren't doing nothing. You are actively aligning yourself with God's ongoing work. You're acting simply as the delivery agent.
A delivery agent. I like that. You're just handing off the heavy boxes.
Precisely. You aren't the mechanic, you're just dropping off the car.
So if our goal in private prayer is alignment with God rather than presenting a fix-it list, we need a practical framework to structure that, right?
Right, because our default is always to make a list of demands.
Exactly. Which brings us to the blueprint the document focuses on, derived from the Lord's Prayer. The ACTS model. ACTS.
It's a brilliant way to tune the mentor's heart.
Let's break it down. The A stands for adoration, honoring who God is, his eternal attributes, and the text stresses doing this regardless of our current life circumstances.
Which is so hard when the circumstances are chaotic.
Totally, but it grounds you. Then the C is confession, honest surrender, acknowledging our own faults.
The document references Psalm 66.15 about iniquity and 1 John 1.9 about cleansing unrighteousness.
Right, getting your own ego out of the way before you try to help someone else. Then the T is thanksgiving, recognizing grace.
This is a big one.
It is. The text highlights that taking God's goodness for granted is such a common sin. It actually references the story of the 10 lepers in Luke 17.
Where Jesus heals 10, but only one comes back to say thank you.
Yeah, we normalize the relief and forget the source. But practicing Thanksgiving allows us to give thanks in all circumstances, referencing 1 Thessalonians 5.18.
Which builds resilience.
And finally, the S is supplication, bringing our needs to God. But the key here is doing it only after acknowledging his attributes, confessing and giving thanks, knowing he hears us, like 1 John 5.15 says.
The order is what matters.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Going through the ACTS model is kind of like calibrating a compass before setting out on a hike.
Oh, I love that analogy.
Right, like you aren't taking any steps on the trail yet, but you're ensuring that when you do start walking, or in this case, asking for things, you're actually facing true north.
Yes. That calibration prevents the common temptation of treating God simply as a transactional vending machine for our supplications. You aren't just pushing a button for a better medical report.
You're engaging in a relationship. Okay, so once our own mindset is calibrated via this ACTS model and we've let go of control, how do we practically translate this?
When you're sitting face to face with the caregiver,
Exactly, sitting in the room with a vulnerable, exhausted person.
the document explores the delicate discernment required here. The art of praying with someone.
The mentor really has to read the emotional tone,
Yeah.
right? And the spiritual openness.
Absolutely. And a crucial practice the text emphasizes is asking permission with very specific wording.
Right, you don't say, can I pray for you?
No. You ask, would you like me to pray with you?
With you.
Mhm.
That one word changes the whole dynamic.
It implies partnership instead of hierarchy.
But what happens if you ask permission to pray with them and the caregiver just flat out says, no, not right now? Doesn't that make things incredibly awkward for the mentor?
This raises an important question because a lot of people fear that exact rejection. But the text explains that respecting a no actually builds profound trust.
Really? Just accepting the no?
Yes, it references James 1.1, be quick to listen, slow to speak, and Ecclesiastes 3.1, that there is a time for everything.
And sometimes it's just time to sit quietly.
Exactly. Think about it. The caregiver's whole life is dictated by someone else's needs right now. By accepting their no, without getting offended, it proves to the caregiver that the mentor's presence is about supporting them, not performing a spiritual duty.
You're giving them their autonomy back.
Yes, and when they do say yes, the rule for praying aloud is simple. Keep it short, simple, and sincere.
Oh, Graham.
Grandstanding.
Do not impose personal prayer styles. No long, formal language. And definitely do not use scripture to subtly correct the caregiver's emotions.
Ugh, the passive-aggressive prayer lecture. The worst.
It destroys trust instantly.
So what does this all mean for you listening right now? Whether you are a formal care mentor or just comforting a friend whose world is upside down, your presence matters more than your eloquence.
100%.
Prayer is a shared space of honesty, not a sermon. The goal is to pray faithfully and gently, not perfectly, trusting that God is near, like Psalm 145.1 says.
It's about being a companion in the dark. Exactly. And I want to leave you with a final thought to ponder that builds on everything we've talked about today.
Lay it on us.
If the most powerful form of prayer with a hurting person is fundamentally about quiet listening and a shared, non-judgmental presence rather than speaking, how might approaching your everyday, totally secular conversations with that exact same silent, attentive posture completely change the way people open up to you?
Oh, that is a great question.
Something to think about next time you feel the urge to just fix someone's problem. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. See you next time.